Okay, hey, this is Francisca, and welcome to my mid-crisis life. So I was talking with my friend today about, all of these feelings that I've had recently and some of the things that I've been struggling with. And I said to her, I understand the point of these videos is to show that actually, we are always mid-crisis. There is always something going on, but how I kind of have got to a point where I'm like, I am just kind of sick of hearing my own voice. I'm sick of hearing myself complain about it. And I think the difference is that it's one thing to kind of just sit and complain and wallow, and that's something that I find really difficult to swallow, like in myself, in others, for sure. But it's different. That is different to understanding that you're going through a process and actually going through that process. So just talking all the time about, your mental health or your environment or other people's behavior, the adversities that you're facing, after a while it becomes kind of redundant and meaningless and unhelpful. And I can definitely relate to feeling a level of like frustration and intolerance to people that are just constantly talking about some kind of fucking problem that's going on in their lives. I think the difference is making a decision to do something about it. So I don't think that what we go through in our lives is actually the problem. I think it is the thing that is symptomatic of a deeper, more core wounding that wants to be healed. So it's coming up in all of these different ways. And I always say, like, as a social worker, that social work focuses a lot on risk factors. So they talk a lot about, these are the main risk factors, and if these risk factors are present, then we know that there's probably going to be some level of neglect or abuse in the home. And I don't disagree with that. I agree. If there's domestic violence, if there's severe mental health problems, if there's substance misuse, these things are indicative, definitely, of parents struggling to be able to care for their children. But the problem is that what social services like to do is they like to say, oh, okay, well, for that risk factor, what we're going to do is we're going to put them on this course. We're going to send them to this place. We're going to sign them up for this. And they forget that actually those behaviors are just symptoms of something deeper. They're a way of often medicating their maladaptive tendencies, maladaptive behaviors that we as people take on to try to manage something that's going on that's deeper. And I always say that you can put this fire out, but unless you deal with the derivative, the derivation, the origin, the core of why someone is but why someone has fallen into behaving that way, then that fire is just going to pop up somewhere else. Like those forest fires that run underground and then suddenly a tree just bursts into flame in front of you. It's because what's underneath isn't being dealt with. So what's my point? So my point is that I was talking to my friend about these things and about how, I'm constantly just talking at the moment about struggling, but I'm not putting anything into practice to change that. And since I have started actually doing some kind of practice, just something, some non-negotiables every day, I feel movement and I can feel a greater release, and I can feel that kind of like staleness, that stagnation, that feeling of being frozen, starting to melt. And I was talking to her about, what I'm trying to achieve here. And I spoke about the fact that, I think the next step is that I'm going to try and extend my reach, and how much of like an internal battle that is, how much cognitive dissonance I have around it, how much internal conflict I have around it, how I feel both opposing sides, but predominantly that even from whatever side I'm looking at it, there's just a really deep core wounding that's all around self-love. And she's like, do it. Just do it. And I was saying to her, what if I fail? And she was saying, well, failure is just not trying, right? And I know that that's kind of pop psychology, is something that people say, but it is true. I just don't think I've got my head around it yet. And I think that that's what this work is, or this pain is helping me to work through. Some kind of element of that that's very, very deep. But what I wanted to share just off the back of that conversation is I told her about when I decided to first start making videos. So like I made a load of videos and I was really procrastinating about moving forward, and I was having a lot of the same feelings that I'm having now, and a lot of the same conflict that I'm having now at the thought of just posting something in a place where people were going to see it. And it was so crazy. It was really crazy. So I was doing this case, and the family that I was working with happened to live in a place called Tilbury. And I'd never in my life ever heard of this place before. And all of a sudden, it was the only fucking place that seemed to be relevant in my life. Like everything just was happening in Tilbury. And then I finally got the paperwork through so that I could get my car, and went to the dealership, and lo and behold, where's my car? It's in Tilbury. I'm like, okay, I've never heard of this place before, but suddenly everything seems to be happening in Tilbury. Tilbury seems to be all of a sudden a predominant feature in my life. So anyway, I had to spend some time with this family, and I booked this appointment to go and see them. And basically it was a very long appointment, and about halfway through we got back to their house in Tilbury, and I said, look, I'm going to go and sit downstairs for a little while because well, to cut a long story short, I needed a break. And where this person lives, there's like shops and stuff underneath, so I ended up going down there and getting myself like a little sandwich. And I literally just went and sat on the curb in the sun, and I must have looked like an absolute crazy person because there were loads of people there. There's a big car park and stuff outside. And people were walking past me and driving past me, looking at me like I was kind of nuts. But I've got to a point in my life where I'm like, I don't really care. I'd rather be crazy than fucking sane, for sure. I'd rather be weird than boring, like, all day long. So, not really that bothered about how I'm perceived in my real life by the people that are around me. So yeah, I'm sitting down, and then like this guy walks past, and he says like some kind of general throwaway comment, something like, "Oh, it's Friday, cheer up." And I think I said to him, "Don't buy into that shit. Like, we don't need to be like sad on Monday and hump day Wednesday and oh, it's Friday, yay. Like, just be fucking happy every day." And anyway, off the back of that, we ended up having a conversation, and he was asking me, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I'm visiting a family. I'm a social worker, but I don't really want to do that long term. I've been doing it for a long time now. But really, I want to try and start to do this YouTube page. You know, I feel like I've got a lot of wisdom to share, and I feel like people listen to me when I talk. I think I've got a good way of presenting information, and I feel like I could really help people, you know, that are on the cusp of wanting to make that transition, wanting to make that change, wanting to evolve. And he's like, okay, cool. What's your YouTube page? Put it in my phone. And I'm like, well, I haven't done it yet because I'm scared. I'm procrastinating. So what are you scared of? I don't really know, bro. Like, I really don't know. I couldn't tell you, but all I know is that I'm scared and I'm too scared to do it. And he's like, all right, well, you gotta do it. Okay, cool. I said, all right, cool. I'm gonna do it. He's like, all right, when you gonna do it? I said, all right, you know what? Give me 7 days and I will put videos up. He says, all right, cool. Well, I'll tell you what then. Give me your number. Yeah. And in 7 days, I'm going to get the YouTube channel from you and I want to see it. And no word of a lie, 4 days later, never heard from him in between. 4 days later, he messages me with just a message that says like 3 days and like those little eyes like he's watching me, which I thought was absolutely fucking hilarious. So talking to him on and off, like he's like, what are you doing? Where's the videos? Da, da, da. And all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, this guy just became a really big accountability partner for me. And I really actually haven't spoken to him since. I spoke to him for like a week or two. He watched some of my videos. He was like, yeah, they're amazing. Maybe do an introduction. Okay, cool. And that's really been it. But do you want to know the kicker to this story? I've forgotten his name. So I asked him, I was like, yo, dude, remind me of your name. What's your name? He tells me his name's Emmanuel. And it didn't register at the time, but afterwards I looked it up. And Emmanuel's name means God is with you. And I really do truly feel like God just came down, sent someone, injected some courage into me, and then fucked off again. And you know, it just reminded me, like talking to my friend today and talking about that and talking about everything that I'm going through, that reminded me of how important it is to have people around you who are high vibrational, who support you, who love you, who don't come from a place of fear, which can create jealousy and envy, or anxiety and concern. You know, people that are always like, oh, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to go there? Do you think that, well, I hope this doesn't happen? Like, okay. Do you hope it doesn't happen, or do you secretly hope that it does happen and that's why you're bringing it up? Like those kind of like mean well people who really actually just need to fuck off because they're not taking any risks. They're sitting on the sidelines. They're spectators telling the professional athletes how to do their job when they've actually never played football in front of 10 million people in a World Cup final, but seem to know everything that should be done and could have done it better if it was them. But it's not you, and it hasn't been you, and you're not doing it. And I feel like that's something that I'm really missing at the moment, you know, something that I've had up until recently, and something that I struggle to find in this country, just because of the way that like the energetic makeup is in this country. But maybe that's a video for another day. So yeah, I think that's what I want to talk about right now. So let me think of 3 things that I'm really grateful for. Well, I'm really grateful that I do have people in my life who want to be the light and want to hold light and want to inject light into me, so that I'm not crushed by the weight of my circumstances and my environment and, you know, the energy that's around me, the energy that's in other people, so that I'm not crushed by the weight of my own trials and tribulations, by trying to do something, by trying to be different, by trying to take a risk in whatever small step it is. I'm grateful that I do have people, if only I seek them out a little bit more, who want to help me to shine when my light's a little bit dulled. That's amazing. I'm grateful for this time that I have. I'm in my cousin's house. She's not here. And it's nice to just actually have some space, some privacy, which I don't get very often anymore, and is much needed, much needed for anybody, but especially when you're trying to wade through the tar of your own emotional turmoil. And that being said, I'm really grateful to my mum for opening up her house and giving me an opportunity to reset and start again and not have to survive for once. So that's amazing. Yeah. Okay. I think that's all.